Starting with you, Emily, like Scarlett just mentioned, Biden really bringing up a lot of points that you could see as big campaign platforms for him heading into 2024. Did this feel like a campaign speech to you?
In a certain extent, it's clear that Biden is very much addressing the American people with this speech, that is his intended audience today. But let's be clear, Democrats are definitely planning to continue to talk about January 6th into the elections, the midterm elections in November. That January 6th panel, that's going to continue. It's going to continue to generate news, to generate headlines, to continue to look into Republicans. This is a point that Democrats do not want the American people to forget. Not only that this happened, but also that a number of Republicans have supported it, have kind of gone along with it, have downplayed it, and came back after these riots to vote to overturn the electoral votes for several states. And that's something that Democrats are going to try and keep reminding voters of over the next couple months as we head towards the midterms.
So as Democrats keep reminding voters of January 6th and the fallout from it, Eric, what are Republicans saying and doing? How are they tiptoeing around it or perhaps not even referring to what happened?
Well, I thought it was interesting, the statements that came out of McConnell, the top Republican in the Senate, and Steve Scalise. He also had a statement, the Republican whip. McConnell, he was one who voted to affirm the election, and he said January 6th was a very dark day, condemned the violence, but he also then pivoted to say that he's condemning Democrats for trying to push through what he says are partisan voting bills using January 6th as a pretext. So that's the way he's finessing this. Steve Scalise, while condemning the violence in the preamble, then quickly goes on to condemn the January 6th committee as partisan, says Speaker Pelosi is trying to engage in a witch hunt and not focusing on the failures of the Capitol Police, which he blames Pelosi in part for not preparing for the riot. So that's how Republicans are handling. Most of them are not in town today in the Senate. They're at Johnny Isaacsen's funeral, the former Georgia senator who passed away. I thought it was a very strong speech from Biden, maybe one of his strongest. But the real question is, are Republicans listening? They have this very bipartisan note of, you can't love your country only when you win, saying he's willing to work with any law and order Republicans to respect the rule of law. That's very much on message for Biden. Just not clear who's tuning in or if it will move the needle at all.
Well, that increasingly feels like what every political speech is like, where people only talk to their very narrow audience. And Maddie, I think about how this is clearly geared towards a domestic audience, but the rest of the world is watching and they're listening carefully.
Right. And we should mention that Biden held this democracy summit a couple of months ago, really pushing forward this idea of America moving past what happened during former President Donald Trump's administration in terms of foreign policy. Eric, does the rest of the world buy Biden's pitch that America is this beacon of democracy, given what we're talking about with the insurrection on January 6th?
I think it's certainly January 6th damaged the U.S. reputation and frankly, the Trump administration as well, and calling into question the election. Certainly, Asia, which is a region I'm very familiar with, we're competing with China and its message that democracy is not important, that instead economic development and growth are all that matters. The U.S. was kind of a counterweight to that, often promoting democracy, especially in the smaller countries, and that was certainly undermined by January 6th, and it's going to be an uphill battle to reclaim that mantle of being a beacon of freedom and liberty.